True imagination is not fanciful daydreaming. It is fire from heaven. Ernest Holmes. Greetings and salutations, mortals. I am your host, Simeon. Or perhaps I'm not. Perhaps you just imagined all of this, dreamed it all up in your mind. Well, real or not, you are you, and I am I, and I suppose that makes this the Library of Gnosis. Welcome, dreamers! What you hold in your mind is not mere fantasy. It is the most potent force in the universe. To understand why, we must trace its lineage throughout the ages. Through the voices of those who recognized imagination as the very engine of creation itself. Paracelsus, the great physician and alchemist of the 16th century, gave us a tripart structure. The spirit is the actor, the body is the stage, and the physical form is but the vehicle through which the invisible passes into the visible. Paracelsus. He understood that the body is plastic material, yielding to the imagination as clay yields to the potter's hand. What you visualize, you become. What you imagine, you create. And what you create, you in fact experience. A reality, all in of itself. The spirit is the master, imagination the tool, and the body the plastic material. The essence of man is not in his body, but in his imagination. The imagination is not a fantasy. It is a real act of the spirit that imprints itself on the stars and on the elements, moving them. Paracelsus. William Blake, the visionary poet and artist, took this further when he declared, "The world of imagination is the world of eternity. It is the divine bosom into which we shall all go after the death of the vegetated body." William Blake. Blake's vision elevates imagination to a divine, eternal realm, the ultimate reality that transcends the physical body. This flesh is but a garment. What you see with your eyes is mere shadow. What you see with your imagination is the substance of reality itself. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, the Romantic poet and philosopher, further refined this understanding. The primary imagination I hold to be the living power and prime agent of all human perception, and as a repetition in the finite mind of the eternal act of creation. Samuel Taylor Coleridge. To him, imagination is not merely a human faculty, but a reflection of the divine creative act itself. To imagine is not to pretend. It is to participate in the creative power of the universe. Carl Jung, famous for his practice of active imagination, added a vital perspective. Without this playing with fantasy, no creative work has ever yet come to birth. The debt we owe to the play of the imagination is incalculable. Carl Jung. Later, Dana Hutton insisted, Don't ever let anyone tell you that imagination is mere fantasy. It is nothing less than the foundation of reality. Dana Hutton. Every building, every painting, every technological advancement, every revolution began in someone's mind. This world you inhabit was once invisible. It was dreamed into being, and it continues to be redreamed every single moment by every single person. Colin Wilson likewise echoes this. Imagination should be used not to escape reality, but to create it. Colin Wilson. Henry Corbin describes imagination as an active force that unveils the hidden reality, the occulted, that which is hidden, concealed, or obscured from view. He also described it as the organ of this universe, and as the place of theophanic visions. Yet Corbin, like Paracelsus before him, issues a warning. He echoes Paracelsus' warning against confusing it with mere fantasy, calling fantasy a madman's cornerstone. There is a razor-sharp distinction between scattered, uncontrolled, passive fantasy and true, will-driven imagination. Franz Hartmann writes, "The first power that meets us at the threshold of the soul's domain is the power of imagination." Franz Hartmann. He also states, "If thought and will are divided, they are both ineffective. But if thought and will are in unison, they become effective. Then they constitute a unity, and this unity is called spirit." Franz Hartmann. Thought and will must unite. That unity is the very definition of spirit. Marion Woodman adds the critical somatic dimension. Bodywork is soul work. Imagination is the bridge between body and soul. Marion Woodman. You cannot heal the body without addressing the soul. And you cannot address the soul without engaging the imagination. The three are one. Rudolf Steiner, the esoteric philosopher, articulated the interplay between body and spirit. I can only imagine what I can imagine by the virtue of my body, and I will what the spirit predisposes in me. Rudolf Steiner. If Paracelsus is correct, and he in reality represents a core of Western esoteric thought, then imagination is not a passive daydream, but the active workshop of the soul. For occult orders like the Golden Dawn, Thelemic orders and Rosicrucian groups, visualization is not make-believe. It is the primary mechanical interface between your will, spirit, and physical reality, matter. To understand why, you have to look at the metaphysical mechanics they teach. First is what we might call the astral or etheric template, or the blueprint effect. In Hermetic and Kabbalistic cosmology, before anything manifests in the physical world, Ashia it must first exist in the formative world, Yetzirah. The imagination is the lens that operates on this formative plane. When you visualize a protective circle, a flaming pentagram, or a spirit sigil, occult orders teach that you are literally sculpting astral substances. You are building the energetic blueprint that physical events will then conform to. Like the Emerald Tablet says, as above, so below. Imagination is the above, where the pattern is set. Second is the crucial distinction between imaginatio vera and fantasy. As Henry Corbin noted, occult orders make a razor-sharp distinction between fantasy, scattered, uncontrolled, passive, and true imagination. In The Golden Dawn, for example, you don't just casually picture a white light. You are taught to feel its heat, hear its vibration, and know its mathematical proportions. This intense, will-driven concentration compresses the spiritual energy into a thought form. If your visualization wavers, the spell has no structural integrity. It is the control of the imagination that turns it from a madman's cornerstone into a magician's cornerstone. Third is programming the subconscious and the nervous system. Occult orders, particularly those influenced by Jung and Crowley, recognize that the conscious mind gives the orders, but it is the subconscious mind which speaks the language of symbols and images that executes it. By visualizing a desired outcome down to the smallest sensory detail, you bypass the critical, skeptical conscious mind and directly imprint the command onto the deeper psyche. This changes your micro-expressions, your tone of voice, your intuitive actions, subtly steering external events to align with your visualized goal. Fourth is the energetic, sympathetic resonance. In ceremonial magic, when you visualize a specific deity, planetary sphere, or archangel, you aren't just pretending they are there. The order teaches that by using your imagination to perfectly replicate their signature, their colors, geometric shapes and sounds, you create a sympathetic resonance. As the Corpus Hermeticum exclaims, if you do not make yourself equal to God, you cannot apprehend God. For like is known by like. Corpus Hermeticum. This is akin to tuning a radio to a specific frequency. Your imagination is the tuner that allows your localized spirit to sync up with that macrocosmic force, allowing it to flow down into your physical space. Fifth is inner alchemy and initiation. Visualization isn't just for getting things, evocation or thaumaturgy. It is used for self-transformation. Theurgy. In the middle pillar exercise, You visualize energy rising up your spine. In Rosicrucian healing, you visualize golden light dissolving tumors. The body is the plastic material, as Paracelsus said. Your imagination literally reshapes your nervous system, neuroplasticity, and hormonal flows over time. The ultimate takeaway from an occult perspective is this. An occult order will tell you that if you cannot visualize, you cannot practice magic. Not because you lack a skill, but because you lack the connection to the formative power of the universe. However, there is one vital correction they always make. Visualization without will is useless. The image is just the vessel. It is the conviction, emotion, and focused intent that pour into the image that gives it locomotive power. As Paracelsus said, the spirit is the master. The imagination is merely the obedient servant holding the brush. George Bernard Shaw captured this process succinctly. Imagination is the beginning of creation. You imagine what you desire. You will what you imagine. And at last, you create what you will. George Bernard Shaw. This is the formula in its simplest form. Imagine, will, create. The 3 steps are inseparable. The 20th century occultist Dion Fortune famously called magic the art of waking dreaming. When you strip away the robes and incense, what ceremonial magic is really doing is inducing a controlled, waking, hypnagogic state, the twilight zone between sleep and wakefulness, and then steering it with surgical precision. The similarities to lucid dreaming are striking. In a lucid dream, you can smell, touch, taste, and hear a completely fabricated environment. In active occult visualization, the goal is the same. You aren't just seeing a pentagram on the floor. You're feeling its gritty texture under your bare feet, hearing the crackle of its energy, and smelling the ozone it generates. You are feeding the subconscious the exact same sensory data as a dream. Just as a lucid dreamer realizes, I am asleep, but I am aware, therefore I have agency. The magician realizes, I am awake, but I am shifting my awareness to the inner plane. Therefore, I have agency over that plane. And both rely on absolute, unshakable conviction in the moment of action. In a lucid dream, if you doubt you can fly, you will fall. In magic, if you doubt your visualized shield will protect you, it shatters. But the crucial difference is why it is not just dreaming. In a lucid dream, you usually enter an existing dreamscape and then manipulate it. You are the guest who takes over the host. In occult magic, you are building from scratch on an empty canvas, often while your physical eyes are open and looking at the physical floor. You have to hold the visualized template in your mind, while simultaneously being aware of the dog walking across the room. This dual focus is far harder than lucid dreaming. A lucid dreamer does a reality check like pushing a finger through their palm to prove they are not in physical reality. A magician does the opposite. They perform a ritual action like drawing a vanishing dagger to prove they are grounded in physical reality while projecting their imagination outward. It is external projection, not eternal immersion. And finally, there is the wakeful component. As Paracelsus said, the imagination imprints itself on the stars and elements. In a lucid dream, you only change your own subjective psyche. In magical theory, because the spirit is the master, that waking imagination physically alters the subtle matter outside of your skull. Most serious occult orders teach you to reach a state of physical relaxation, muscle tension released, while maintaining absolute mental awareness. This is the exact same neurological threshold where lucid dreaming occurs. They call it the state of the body of light. When you hit the sweet spot, physically asleep, spiritually awake, your visualizations become self-luminous. They stop being pictures in your head and start appearing behind your closed eyelids with the vividness of high-definition cinema. At that point, you aren't imagining the spirit or the energy. You are experiencing it. The psychotic drowns in the same waters in which the mystic swims with delight. Joseph Campbell. The difference between a psychotic, a lucid dreamer, and a master magician is simply this. The psychotic is drowned by his inner images. The lucid dreamer plays in his. But the magician projects his inner images outward and makes the physical world dance to their tune. You are the director projecting your movie onto the screen of the universe, rather than just sitting in the cinema watching it. And when you know this truth, you are no longer a passive viewer of reality. You are its active co-creator. You are Prometheus, forethought, bringing fire down from heaven. It was Prometheus who stole the divine fire, the creative power, and gave it to mankind. You have that stolen fire in your mind right now. So, use it. This truth was not lost on the ancients. Even the Old Testament acknowledges the sheer creative power of the human imagination. And the Lord said, "Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do." Genesis 11:6. And now, as this dreamscape nears its end, if you have journeyed this far, then please write, "I imagine awake," down in the comments below, so I know you did in fact go on the journey with me. And as always, I hope you enjoyed the broadcast and learned something valuable from me. If you want to support me and my work, then feel free to send me a super chat on YouTube, become a channel member, or sign up for Patreon. where you get access to early releases of my videos, which include scripts containing my sources. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you, specifically you listening, I will see you in the next one. Fare thee well and Godspeed, Dreamers.